Hello again. I'm going to try and see if we can get our guest on board now. Um, Hopefully, yes. Okay. So just to quickly reiterate while I invite our guests, um, singular, today's conversation is going to be about prioritizing primarily when it comes to your professional life. While we also are required to do it in our personal life, it's actually quite prominent in our professional life, especially for those who need to handle tasks simultaneously, um, would have to have an understanding of how much priority to give to which task and how to accomplish them with efficiency. So, to give us those inputs, second trial, hopefully, sorry, Meera Satyamurthy, who is a corporate trainer primarily. And she's also been associated with top organizations like HP and Novell. Hello, Miss Meera. I hope.
Hello. Good
I hope
afternoon.
Hi. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, so currently you're not quite visible, although you are clearly audible. We might
Okay.
need you to just put the phone a little bit farther from you, I suppose.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, sorry. That's okay. If you can double tap on your screen,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
will.
yeah. Yeah.
There you are. Perfect. Okay, hello. Nice to see
Hello.
you, and
Good
thank you so
afternoon.
much for Good afternoon. I am grateful that this is the first live that you are on, but because this topic is so close to your heart, you were willing to push your comfort zone and come on Instagram Live, so I appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
I was just telling our viewers that we will be talking about a lot of challenges that most people experience in the work setting when it comes to prioritizing and managing their time efficiently. And we'll be discussing certain strategies as well. However, a request to the viewers that we have now, if there are any specific situations that you are currently in the midst of that you would need some inputs on how to manage, feel free to ask your queries and we'll be more than happy to address it. Okay, so Ms. Meera, I wanted to start with discussing some realistic challenges that one may be facing in the work setting. Coming from personal experience, I can't speak for everyone. There are times when there is a clear understanding of what the task is and the kind of priority level it has. So we have an internal communication within the organization as well. We have certain codes for each task that we get, and that's how we understand the priority level for it. Now, sometimes what happens is that, and I guess this is also the case when it is a new organization with, not that big a team, that there are certain ad hoc tasks that come our way. In which case, it gets a little confusing as to how the prioritizing would work in that case. So, considering such problems, and I would probably ask you also, since you have been with the corporates for over 2 decades, what are the challenges um, that could make prioritizing more difficult for individuals?
Yes, thank you, Nisha, for giving me this opportunity to share some of my experiences as well as my observations as well. And to begin with, in the corporate life, I mean, this holds good even for personal life as well. But most of my examples, I would like to take it in the corporate sector. But if there's anybody with a query in personal front also, I'll be happy to answer them. The most favorite statement from any of the executives in corporate is deliverables have to be made yesterday. It's never today or tomorrow. So that is one of the biggest challenges all the time that we face. Okay. Then the next thing what you were talking about, task getting priority numbers and things like that. There are many tools, small simple tools which many people use. Okay, so one of them is like what you said, priority tasks kind of a thing. But it's actually the other way around. You are not going to prioritize what's on schedule, but you need to schedule your priorities. That is one thing that most of us forget to do. So, and every day change is the middle name in corporate, and change is inevitable. So there are going to be a lot of changes which are going to come in. The only thing is we need to see how reactive we are, and that is one of the challenges. That is the watchfulness that we need to be aware of in terms of our reactiveness. So let checklists or anything to do with schedules are some of the things where we need to take weightage in terms of the context that we are working in. And the next challenge that most of us find is nobody is working in silos. All of us work in teams, right? So although all of us are aligned with respect to what the organization is expecting from us, nobody is doing personal work. Okay, so but there are paradigms, there are priorities, there are assumptions which differ from person to person. That is the biggest challenge that we see. For example, if there is a technical person, the technical person will be interested in putting up his or her patents, because that is also required from the organization perspective, from the product that he or she is working on, things like that. Whereas the salesperson is interested in a demo which he has promised for a customer tomorrow, while there is a service engineer who is working on a critical defect fix which was supposed to get done yesterday. But in amidst all this, where is the schedule for the current deliverable that is going on? That is something which manager as well as team members are going to face as crisis points in the day-to-day project life. Then next challenge, taking a bit away from the execution point of view, there is always a perfection factor which some people in the team would always look into. For example, let me take a testing team. There is a deliverable that needs to be made. The salesperson is ready with the demo with the customers that they are supposed to showcase tomorrow, but the test team is going to put a hold on it because it's not matching 100 to 100% in terms of what their expectation or what their guided rules are. So how do we go about it? How do we prioritize this? These are challenges that every organization faces day in, day out. Then the next thing is uncertainties. There are technical resources, for example, technical consultants who are shared among different projects. That's one example I can pick. But that person will be loaded from different fronts, from this project, from a different lab, and from the top executive. Top executive wants to make a presentation tomorrow, so they are looking at technical help today, while this technical person is in the current project deliverable that has to go live tomorrow. So he or she will be bombarded with changes in requests, and they have to prioritize, and their managers have to be notified because they are accountable for this manager, for this deliverable, although they are getting requests from others. And then we have managers or some of the very active people in the team who are loaded with tasks. For example, I have to do this. Manager will have a bucket list. 24/7 is not enough for the manager. I have to delegate, I have to schedule, I have to reschedule, I have to prioritize, I have to review the code, I have to talk to the salesperson about the product, I have to do technical help with technical writing. How do I go about? How do I not burn out? So these are some of the challenges, typical challenges which they out the project teams face in the corporate life.
While you were listing these challenges, in my mind, I couldn't help but like take 1, 3, 5, because there are a few things that I'm able to relate to. And especially what you mentioned about the fact that I think you mentioned something about clarity on what the deliverable is in the first place. I think a lot of times are um, we as an employees or even managers probably get stuck because there is either mismatch of what the expected outcome is, or there is lack of clarity on part of the person executing the task as to what the outcome is. So there is when there is that lack of clarity, there is an obvious challenge that comes up when it comes to prioritizing it and then implementing it as well. But something you started your response with is I would want to ask a follow-up question on that. You mentioned that what most of us forget doing is scheduling our priorities. And here's what I would want to ask. So my understanding of that is the fact that there are various tasks and then they fall under various priority levels. Some are urgent, which needs to be implemented immediately. Some can be planned at a later stage, etc. Um, Especially keeping in mind the kind of ad hoc tasks that may come, and and considering that this list of tasks is a constantly changing list. It's maybe for a day or two at the most will you have the same list. When this is the case, um, how can one put practice scheduling of priorities on a regular basis, because that is something that is required?
True. See, there are a lot of couple of important steps that one needs to follow from the especially from the execution perspective. Okay, this prioritization is one of the skills, and this skill building is an ongoing continuous process. So it's not like I've mastered my prioritization at this point in time. There's no such a statement like that. We need to build that skill. We need to be dynamic. We need to change for us to become effective. That is the essence of the whole thing. So in such a situation, there are some top things that we have to focus whenever we are looking at priorities and things like that. And when I'm talking talking about as a manager or as a leader or whoever, I'm talking from the individual perspective also. Each individual is a manager or a leader oneself. So what is it that one needs to see? How does priority trickle down? What do we look at to make things look as priority for today or tomorrow, whatever? First and foremost is we need to be aligned with the vision and mission of the company, organization, however big, small the company is. So that trickles down into the vision and the goals of the team and the projects and to the individuals, which means the vision mission should get translated in terms of roles and responsibilities and tasks for meeting the project. That is one of the important key things which the manager has to ensure. Now here we all know that there's a difference between manager and leader, and manager has to be a leader as well. The reason is a manager in the leader perspective would look at validation if the goals, tasks assigned to team members or to himself herself are matching with the vision and mission of the organization. That has to be validated day in, day out. As a manager, I need to ensure that the execution is going smooth. So this validation of execution, operational satisfaction, as well as validation against the vision mission becomes very important. This again trickles down to the employee. The employee needs to find out if goals assigned to by the manager. It's not like I'm taking commands from the manager. I have to be proactive. I need to find out if my goals are comfortable with me. And I need to find out if the goals are matching with the vision. Maybe it's a teamwork. So it's not that manager alone or the leader alone is responsible. Every individual in the team is responsible to make sure that the goal is matching with the vision and mission of the organization. Only then we get that synchronization of priorities. I was saying that different people will have different priorities, right? So this will get synchronized. People will be accountable for each other, and that's when it goes in tandem. And that's the expectation from any high-performing team to achieve the deliverables. That is one thing. Second thing is in terms of effective communication. You were talking about it. How do we ensure effective communication between manager and employees? It's not one way, it's two way. Employees have to be proactive. For example, I took an example of a technical person who was being pulled from all sides in the organization, right? So that person is actually responsible in communicating to the manager, saying that look, I have been assigned these many tasks. I have been assigned these many tasks. Then it's the duty of people to sit together every day to discuss what is priority on that particular day. What can go into urgent, important kind of a sectors. So now we are coming to the actual tool which most of the people will be using, the Stephen Covey's important urgent metrics tool. So I think I will not explain too much on this metrics tool, but I will focus in terms of how to avoid crisis when we have planned towards this metrics tool. So now, as we all know, just a brief on the matrix. The quadrant one is urgent, important. Okay, so the urgent and the important work, whatever is in crisis, whatever is in critical path, whatever has to be delivered today, by hook or crook, we'll try to complete it. This is the crisis part. This should have actually been planned, moved smooth, and the crisis should have been less. Okay, but this will get done. What is the takeaway point from this is, if we are in this zone for a long time, if there are too many tasks in this urgent important zone, then we all of us will get stressed, all of us will get burned out, and there is no long term goals will get affected by this. Then I will cover the urgent important quadrant, which is Q2, according to, I mean, you can call it any quadrant, but I am calling it as not urgent, but important. This is the most important quadrant. What are the things which fall under this? Here, skill building is one of the important things, and preventing tasks from getting into crisis. How do we plan such that we don't get into the quadrant one? It has to be done immediately now, kind of a scenario. So those are, and then relation building, then long-term new ideas, new concepts, and when we are looking at competitive products, how are we different? How do we want to bring the differentiation? All these things fall under this not urgent, important. And when we are talking about important and urgent, important is seen as results. Urgent is seen as visible. So that's the reason why when something is urgent and something is important, it's both visible and results. So we tend to do it very quickly and complete it. When it comes to not important and urgent, this is the zone which most of us fall in. It's a very reactive mode where top people or whoever in the hierarchy or from sales anywhere, changes keep coming in for the managers or for the individuals. And then there will be a lot of interruptions, there will be a lot of phone calls, emails, things like that. Obviously, they are not scheduled, right? But they are urgent. I have to attend this call. I have to reply to this email. That is the kind of reactive mode. What are we trying to do here? Actually, we are trying to answer the expectations and priorities of others. Although we are aligned as an organization, our values as a team, our priorities as a team or individual for that day will be totally different from the priorities and expectations of the people who are demanding from us, right? So this is where we need to come out of the reactive mode and see, again, check with the values and mission of our teams. So some of the things can wait. They need not be urgent. Okay. So that's the call that we need to make. And if this is the loophole where most of us fall in and then get into crisis mode all the time. Then the last quadrant.
Sorry, I just quick follow up on the second quadrant. So is it important that it's definitely important that there is alignment of vision in the team, within the team, within interdepartmental teams, and with the organization as a whole? I think that is absolutely important on many levels. Now, when you speak of the second quadrant, which are not important yet urgent, which, yes, quite realistically, most of us fall under, or most of our tasks fall under that particular quadrant. So, is it that we need to constantly come back, like take a step back and have the clarity on that vision and alignment to understand just where our efforts should go, so that again, so that the larger vision which I'm in alignment with is not being compromised. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. One is through communication. See, we have agile methodologies, we have day-to-day meetings. What are we focusing in our day-to-day meetings or in the agile 5-minute stand-up meetings and all? This is something which we need to see. Where the trickling of changes are happening, how important is it with respect to our valuation as a project as of today? Okay, and if it is a decision that needs to be done, then there is always it's okay to change the priorities. That doesn't mean that this also should get added. There is something else which needs to get down in the priority list when this is coming up. So that is something which we need to focus in our communication. It's not just a status update or reporting, nothing. In the meeting, these assumptions, these priority trickling in, or something which is like popping up, which might become a crisis tomorrow, these are the things that we need to watch out. And how do we encourage this kind of an environment? One thing is or the managers or the employees in the team are equally responsible in terms of positive reinforcement. How do we do that? We need to recognize people who are doing highest values. For example, today, if somebody fixes a problem assigned in the schedule, and there is always somebody who has actually taken up a training course to upgrade one's skills, or obviously the person who has taken that course to upgrade his or her skills need to be recognized as well, because that is the quadrant 2 kind of a priority thing. If managers or the culture of organization doesn't recognize that, then it's seen as no value and doesn't take place at all. So we are not actually fighting towards coming out of the crisis or trying to see where we can prevent getting into crisis, or nor are we looking at long-term goals. Our idea in terms of effective team building for organization as well is in terms of being productive and for building the potential. So, and then how are we responsible for holding each other accountable? These are the things that we need to focus as positive reinforcements. So once this starts happening, then we are actually creating space for focusing on Q2 quadrants. Then the next step that is most essential is in terms of how do we standardize? How do we come up with processes? These are the effective ways where we can reduce the time, right? So how do we look at reducing time so that we can attend to priority items? Obviously, in the schedule, we would have put the buffer, and most often we will eat that buffer also if we are in the reactive quadrant 3 sector. But some of the things where these are the activities which happen in Q2 also, how do we bring in process? How do we standardize? How do we automate? How do we leverage? How do we collaborate? How do we delegate? So delegation is also very important.
Being the key term. Yes, delegation being the key term. I'm glad we're talking about this.
Delegation is, most of the time there are two aspects. One is do this, do that, do that. Do this is not the delegation that we are talking about, because that is again becoming responsible. The manager will become responsible for that action. It is giving the responsibility to the person to act on one's own. So it's not do this, do that kind of delegation, but involve people to make them understand what they're supposed to do, and they have to come up to the manager saying, okay, I'm going to do these. That's when it's going to free up the manager's time. So that is one kind of delegation. Second thing is, there's always a fear. If I delegate, then my role will be lost. My tasks will be lost. I will be redundant in the organization. No, it will never happen. One thing is there are a lot of tasks where there are no takers. That is the opportunity for us to see how we can take up new things, where we can build our expertise as managers or employees as well. There are new untapped opportunities that we need to explore. So that's the differentiation that we are creating in the team rather than, holding on to what we are doing. Then no, that becomes a comfort zone, because if you keep doing what you are doing, that's when it becomes a non-important, non-urgent. We'll get into the comfort zone, which is a very redundant sector at this point in time.
And it's a very important perspective to have, I believe, because oftentimes we are so attached almost to the kind of projects that we are given and the projects that we're a part of, that we invest in, that when part of it or even whole of it has to be delegated, there's the perspective that I'm missing out on something, or this is being taken away from me. So there is scope for some sort of fall on part of me. This is actually something our mentor, my mentor at the workplace, also sort of shared with us, that or the perspective should be more of the fact that there will be more and more things and projects coming up that are in line with the larger organizational vision. So while we may be giving up certain things from our plate, um, the understanding should be of the fact that our plate is now has the scope to take on more, which is very much in line with the vision, which is helping us grow towards it. And that is a much more helpful perspective than the one where we have fear of either losing out on our credibility by delegating, which I personally have experienced. I think I do understand the sense in what
There's
you are
another
saying.
there's another factor too. See, unless we delegate, unless there are other people taking over the task that we have mastered or are experts in, there is no way we can build an effective team, and then we are growing leaders, we are growing people within the organization. If a single person keeps doing same work all the time, okay, where is the growth? Where is the opportunity to see others grow? That is the health of the organization. The well-being of the organization, or the crux of the organization, is growth of individuals. So this is a creative synergy that we need to create within the team.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. We have a question from one of our viewers who's asking whether burnout is inevitable. I would just like to have a go at it, and of course, I would want to share your views, but I think not. I think burnout is definitely something that can be avoided, which should be avoided. And I think the priority quadrant, what you have been sharing, is essentially what will keep us from reaching the stage of burnout. If we find ourselves have a lot of tasks in the first quadrant, which is important and urgent, I think that is the first sort of indicator that we need to take a step back and look at how we are approaching these tasks, because there's somewhere that we need to modify our approach and method, because otherwise we'd be on the way of stressing ourselves out and burning out eventually. And I think the shift should be more towards the quadrants that hold more of planning and delegating, and you doing your task simultaneously while you delegate things that can be planned by others as well, and plan your own tasks. I think that keeps burnout at bay. Is That's how I understood it from the explanation that you gave of the quadrant. Of course, I would like to know your views also on this particular query.
Yes, Neha, perfectly. Whatever you have explained. Second thing is, see, that's where when it comes to burnout, it's going to affect us long term. We are only discussing right now on all the official, organizational examples. Don't forget that we have our personal life too. I don't think anybody should neglect that as well. Now, whatever we are seeing as an organization, challenge us in terms of priorities, it's going to replicate in our personal life too. If we do not follow that discipline, the same strategy that we adopt for organizational priorities, it's the same thing that we need to adopt personally as well. We will. So if we are in a burnout mode, there's no way we can balance. And the essence of life, well-being, mental well-being, is about balance in life. So burnout will definitely affect long term, definitely affect the individuals, and it is not a very zone to be in for a long time, because are we losing on the creativity front? Are we not able to come out of it? That's where, as you said, Neha, we need to step back and see where we are and how do we need to change our path. That is something which we always need to look at as individuals.
I hope that answers our viewers' question. But all in all, I think, Ms. Meera, these have been invaluable inputs, which is also one of the comments that we got. Oftentimes, even for me personally, there is an understanding of the theoretical concepts that we've discussed today, but I have personally struggled in putting that to practice. But there are at least 2 or 3 action points that I have taken from what you have shared so far that would make my day-to-day operation a lot smoother, I would say. For me personally, the takeaways are sort of scheduling the priorities as a regular habit. So it is not something that we do when we notice that there are a lot of important urgent tasks, but it should be a regular practice where we sort of take a consensus on the various things we have to do and make a plan of how we'd like to approach those tasks. So that as a regular practice is for me the personal highlight that I would want to implement sooner rather than later. Otherwise, I just want to take a minute to say a huge thank you, because I know this Instagram live especially was essentially me trying to pull you out of the comfort zone. But you were open and receiving to that. So thank you so much. And definitely thank you for all of the inputs you've given. I hope that it helps the larger community out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Change is inevitable. We need to add to that.
I'm so glad you said that. I wish more and more people have that perspective. Have a good day, Ms. Meera.
Thank you.